There are rivalries in cricket that thrill. There are rivalries that entertain. And then there are rivalries that define courage itself. One such battle took place in the 1980s between two men who couldn't have been more different. One was Sunil Gavaskar, the Indian wall of patience and precision. The other was Malcolm Marshall, the West Indian hurricane. One relied on technique, the other on terror. Together, they gave cricket one of its most iconic duels, Gavaskar versus Malcolm Marshall. Let's travel back to the early 1980s. The West Indies were untouchable. Their bowling attack was a nightmare. Andy Roberts, Michael Holding, Joel Garner, Colin Croft, and then came Malcolm Marshall. He wasn't the tallest, just about 5'11", but don't let the height fool you. His run-up was short, smooth, and deceptive. The moment he released the ball, it came out like a bullet. He could swing it both ways at 145 kilometers per hour, make it lift from a length and hit you where it hurt most. And who was brave enough to face him head-on with no helmet? Sunil Gavaskar, the little master, 5 foot 5 inches tall, barely 65 kilos, armed with a bat lighter than most kids use today. He didn't rely on muscle. He relied on mastery. It was 1983 Barbados. The Caribbean crowd was electric. Marshall, in his own backyard, was hungry for wickets. India had just shocked the world by winning the World Cup, and the West Indies were looking for revenge. Marshall stormed in. One by one, Indian batters fell, but then walked in Gavaskar, calm, unshaken, chewing gum as always, no helmet, just his floppy white cap and a pair of gloves that had seen too many battles. The first ball zipped past his nose. The crowd roared, the second one jagged in, almost kissing the glove. But by the third over, Gavaskar began reading Marshall like a book. He left everything outside off. He swayed away from bouncers. And when Marshall pitched one slightly full, crack, a cover drive, pure timing, racing through the grass. A few months later, the battle resumed in India. Marshall was in red-hot form. The conditions were flat, but his aggression didn't fade. At Delhi, in front of a packed crowd, Marshall bowled one of the fiercest spells India had ever faced. Bouncers, Yorkers, toe crushers. But Gavaskar was in his zone. He wasn't just defending, he was dissecting. He played late, soft hands, perfect head position, almost like he was solving Marshall's bowling like a math equation. In that series, Marshall dismissed Gavaskar a few times, but never dominated him mentally. Gavaskar stood firm, crafting 50s and 100s, while others crumbled. It became a contest of equals. After years of battles, something beautiful happened. Mutual respect. Malcolm Marshall once said, Gavaskar was the toughest nut to crack. He had no weakness. He played his fast bowlers better than anyone. And that says a lot. Because this was the same Marshall who terrorized world cricket, from Alan Border to Javed Miandad to David Gower. But Gavaskar? He faced him with elegance, not aggression. He never sledged, never stared back. He just let his bat do the talking. Even when Marshall hit him on the body, Gavaskar would simply rub the spot, smile faintly, and get ready for the next ball. That silent defiance frustrated bowlers more than any word could. In one of their most intense encounters, India was struggling in Port of Spain. Marshall and Holding were in full rhythm, the ball bouncing and seaming wickedly. Gavaskar took blow after blow. He went on to score a gritty 147 not out, one of his bravest centuries. The West Indian crowd, known for its love of flair and aggression, stood up to applaud an Indian. That day, Marshall didn't just face a batsman, he faced a warrior. Years later, when cricket changed, when helmets became normal, bats grew thicker, and pitches became friendlier, players still talked about one rivalry with awe: Gavaskar versus Marshall. It wasn't about runs or wickets, it was about respect. Their battles taught the world that courage isn't about muscle or aggression. It's about standing tall when the fastest bowler in the world is trying to knock your head off, and smiling back.